Coronation Street teases that David has crossed a line when he offers earnest counsel to Sam, advice that, far from soothing the troubled young man, threatens to deepen the rift between them. The eclipsed afternoon sun cast long shadows across the cobbled pavement as David watched Sam retreat into the distance, shoulders hunched and eyes darkened by memories too heavy to bear. In that moment, David felt the weight of his own misjudgment settle like a stone in his chest. From the moment Sam confided in him, David had believed he was doing the right thing. When Sam arrived at the rover's return, pale and drawn, murmuring about dreams that left him sleepless, David seized the opportunity to offer reassurance. He clasped Sam's shoulder with a firm, friendly grip, an anchor, he hoped, in the swirling sea of grief that threatened to pull Sam under. "It's perfectly normal," David had insisted. "Everyone loses someone close. You just need to give yourself time and be kinder to yourself." But Sam's reaction had been swift and unexpected. His eyes had flicked away, lips pressed into a thin line. He had nodded curtly, then fled without so much as a word of thanks. David replayed that exchange over and over as he made his way home. He remembered how he had watched Sam leave school that morning, hope flickering in his heart that perhaps the offer of a chat would encourage Sam to open up. But by midday, the messages from Nick arrived. Sam had stormed off after his meeting with Lily, convinced that David's well-meaning comments were nothing more than scorn disguised as support. Nick and Shona had greeted the news with both relief and dread. Relief that Sam had at least tried to connect with Lily about her extracurricular project at Weatherfield High, and dread for what had followed. Lily, eager and earnest, had confided that Sam's tone felt mocking, an echo of past cruelties she had endured at the hands of less compassionate classmates. She had believed he was teasing her, perhaps even seeking revenge for an incident in which Lily had unwittingly embarrassed him. Nick, protective and exasperated, blamed David's advice. "You told Sam to lighten up, but you didn't warn him that his grief makes him hypersensitive. He hears your words as criticism." Stung, David had pounded his fist against the steering wheel outside the Rovers, cursing himself for not anticipating that his words could cut deeper than the sorrow they were meant to soothe. He replayed Lily's hurt expression, her lip trembling, face flushed with a mixture of confusion and pain. How could a simple comment snowball into such emotional damage? He knew that beneath Sam's brusque exterior lay a boy shattered by the loss of his mother, Natasha, whose kindness had been the steady heartbeat of his childhood. Without her, Sam had become a ghost in his own life, drifting through school corridors, avoiding laughter, shunning the warmth of friendship. As evening fell, David found himself on the doorstep of number 8, heart in his throat. He had resolved to speak to Sam again, this time with more sensitivity. When Sam finally opened the door, David saw the reluctance flicker in his eyes. "Can we talk?" David said quietly. He held out his hand in a gesture of peace. Sam hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, beneath the soft glow of the hallway lamp, David sought the right words. "I'm sorry," he began, voice catching. "I thought I was helping you, but I see now I was wrong. I didn't understand how raw this all still is." Sam's posture remained guarded. He didn't respond. David pressed on, "You've lost so much, and it's unfair of me to tell you how you should feel. Your pain is yours alone, and I respect that." At last, Sam's shoulders sagged. He looked at David, eyes moist. For a fleeting moment, David dared to hope that the ice was beginning to thaw. The next morning, whispers drifted around the underworld factory floor. Sam had agreed to meet with Toya, Nick had confided to Carla about his fears, Shona had urged them all to show more patience. Charles Dodds, the foreman, shook his head as he passed, a subtle reminder that the cobbles of Coronation Street held more stories than any of them could bear. But word of mouth was no substitute for genuine connection, and so it fell on Toya to bridge the widening gap. Nick found Toya in the salon's back room, the hum of hairdryers and the scent of shampoo forming a comforting cocoon around her. With the fierce protectiveness of an older brother, Nick laid out the situation: Sam's hurt, Lily's misunderstanding, and the growing chasm that threatened to leave Sam even more isolated. He blames himself, Nick said, rubbing his temples. But he can't apologize. He doesn't think he's done anything wrong. He's convinced that everyone expects perfection. Toya listened, brow furrowed in concern. She had known Sam since he was a schoolboy, had laughed with him over cups of soda bread, and shared confidences in the late hours. She knew that behind his stubbornness lay a fragile heart, one that had been shattered by Natasha's sudden passing 6 months ago. "I'll talk to him," she promised. "Maybe if he hears it from someone who doesn't lecture, he'll open up." That afternoon, Toya found Sam perched on the low wall outside the cafe, legs dangling, chin resting on his fists. Birds chirped in the hanging baskets, patrons sipped tea and milkshakes, oblivious to the storm rolling in the boy's mind. Toya approached slowly, offering a gentle smile. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. Sam shrugged but didn't move away. They sat in silence for a moment, the quiet stretching like a taut string. Toya kicked at a stray pebble. "I hear you've been going through it," she began softly. Sam's gaze remained fixed on the pavement. "Talking to David didn't help," she prompted. Sam's shoulders twitched. Finally, he muttered, "He says I should shrug it off, be more light-hearted. But how can I, when she's gone?" Toya nodded, recognizing the tremor in his voice. "Grief doesn't wear a timetable," she said. "And losing your mum, someone who loved you unconditionally, that's a wound that takes time to heal." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "You know, everyone on the street cares about you. We worry because we want to see you smile again, not because we expect you to pretend everything's fine." At her words, Sam turned to look at her, vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "I feel guilty," he confessed. "Like if I'm not angry or sad enough, I'm betraying her memory. And if I am, I'm burdening everyone else." Toya shook her head. "Your grief isn't a burden, it's proof of love. And we'd rather share that burden with you than see you carry it alone." She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "You don't have to face this by yourself." Sam inhaled sharply, tears threatening. He swallowed hard, then spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "She was always so patient with me. Even when I messed up, she never judged. I can't stop thinking that without her, I'll never be whole again." Toya's eyes glistened with empathy. "Natasha's love shaped you into the person you are. That never goes away. But you can let her memory guide you toward life, not away from it." The words hung in the summer air, mingling with the distant clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation. Sam exhaled slowly. "I want to try," he admitted. "I want to feel okay again." Toya smiled, a gentle warmth radiating from her. "One step at a time, love. How about we start small? Maybe join Lily at that extracurricular session. You could explain yourself, show her who you really are, not just what she thinks." Sam nodded, considering. The offer felt daunting, but something in Toya's kindness gave him courage. "Okay," he said at last. "I'll try." Relief washed over Toya's face. That's all anyone can ask. Back at number 7, as the sun dipped below the rooftops, Nick and Shona exchanged hopeful glances. Word had come that Sam and Lily were meeting again, this time with him apologizing sincerely and listening to her perspective. They promised themselves to give David another chance, to let him support Sam, while also ensuring that he tempered his advice with empathy. That evening, as residents strolled home along the familiar street, a gentle breeze carried the scent of jasmine and promise. In the quiet of their living rooms, the people of Coronation Street prepared for tomorrow, ready to face new trials, but reassured by the knowledge that they were not alone. And for Sam, at last, a fragile thread of hope had begun to stitch his fractured heart back together, one compassionate word at a time. When the morning sun filtered through the sash windows of number 7, it carried with it an uneasy hush. Sam had kept his promise to meet Lily at Weatherfield High's after-school art club. He arrived early, hands deep in the pockets of his hoodie, heart hammering as if it wanted to escape his chest. When Lily saw him, she paused in the doorway, sketchbook pressed to her chest. Her expression was cautious, but curious rather than wary. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. There was no accusation in her voice this time, just an honest plea for understanding. The difference was stark, and it unknotted a part of Sam's chest he didn't realize was clenched. "I'm sorry for the other day," Sam began, voice low. He glanced away, searching for the right words. "I didn't mean to come across as mocking you. I didn't realize how upset you'd be." Lily set her sketchbook on a nearby chair and shook her head. "It's okay. I know grief makes you see everything differently. I've lost people too. My dad, he left when I was 8. It made me think everyone I get close to would hurt me or leave me." Her admission trembled on the edge of tears. Sam looked at her, recognizing the fear in her eyes. In that moment, the wall between them felt porous, fragile. "I understand more than you know," he said. They moved to a table strewn with paints and brushes. Tentatively, they each began a simple drawing, hers a watercolor portrait of a cat, his a charcoal sketch of the canal weirs. Neither spoke for several minutes, as they lost themselves in color and shadow. When he laid down his charcoal stick, Sam suddenly felt the swirl of tension lift. Lily's painting had bright splashes of blue and orange, colors he hadn't used since Natasha's funeral. She tilted her work toward him. "This one's of my cat, Jasper. He's dumb but sweet." Sam smiled for the first time in weeks. "He looks alive," he said. "That's the point," Lily replied with a small laugh. "Art's about feeling, not perfection." The simplicity of her observation struck Sam like a revelation. He realized he'd been hostage to his own expectations of himself, of his emotions, even of what reconciliation should look like. Lily's gentle candor offered him a path not toward forgetting Natasha, but toward integrating her memory into a life that could still push forward. Meanwhile, back on Coronation Street, Nick and Shona watched news of the meeting with guarded optimism. Over breakfast, Nick sipped his tea and studied Sam's hesitant smile in a photograph Lily had texted him. Shona folded the newspaper and set it aside. "He looks different," Shona murmured. "Better," Nick said quietly. "But he's not out of the woods yet." His brotherly worry had taken root deeper than he cared to admit. He remembered Sam as a boy who chased pigeons in the square, full of laughter and mischief. Natasha's death had extinguished that spark, and Nick feared it would never relight. "I'm going to talk to David," Nick said, determination in his voice. "He needs to tread carefully." Across the street, David sat at the kitchen table of the Rovers Return pub, nursing a mug of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. His face bore the residue of sleepless nights, dark circles under his eyes and an unshaven jaw. When Nick called, David answered on the first ring. "How's Sam?" David asked automatically, though his heart clenched at the uncertainty behind Nick's measured tone. "He's trying," Nick replied. "He met Lily, had a decent conversation. But we need to keep an eye on him. I want us to back off the lectures and just listen." David exhaled, relief mingling with guilt. "I'm sorry, Nick. I didn't mean to make things worse." He paused. "What can I do now?" "Just be there," Nick said simply. No more unsolicited advice, unless he asks. Let Toya take the lead. She has that magic touch. If you want to help, just show you care. David felt a swell of gratitude. He realized that at its core, helping Sam meant giving him the space to find his own way. The best he could offer now was a steady presence, not a roadmap. Later that afternoon, Toya invited Sam to join her at the community center's poetry workshop. The group met in a cozy corner, cushions strewn across the floor. A small circle of regulars greeted Sam with nods. Toya introduced him, emphasizing no pressure, he could share or just listen. When the facilitator passed out sheets of paper, Sam traced the prompt, write a letter to someone you miss. For a long moment, the blank page stared back. Then, in faint pencil lines, he began. Dear Mum, I miss the days when we would wander by the canal, the echoes of your laughter chasing the wind. As he wrote, tears blurred the words, and for the first time since her funeral, he let the grief spill onto the page. He wrote of the sting of her absence at his football matches, the hollow ache in holidays, when she wasn't there to tuck him in at night. When ink ran smudged, he pressed on. By the time he looked up, the corners of his vision were wet. Toya offered him a tissue and a silent nod. Sam realized that naming his pain had lessened its weight. After the session, as the participants mingled, Lily appeared through the doorway with her sketchbook. She'd come to show Sam her latest work, a series of ink and watercolor pieces depicting bridges across rivers. I thought you might like these, she said, holding out her portfolio. Sam leafed through the paintings. He recognized the style, delicate lines overlaid with washes of indigo. The bridges seemed to arch toward hidden horizons. They are beautiful, he said. You capture the feeling of crossing from one side to the next. Lily's cheeks warmed. I thought they might speak to you about moving on. They sat on a bench outside in the fading light, talking not of grief or apologies, but of art and what it meant to create something lasting. Sam realized that Lily's talents were more than a distraction. They were a testament to hope, an artistic creed that beauty could emerge from sorrow. In the days that followed, word spread that Sam had begun attending both art club and poetry sessions. Free from the shackles of having to appear okay, he let his emotions find expression on paper and canvas. Nick and Shona noticed subtle changes. He laughed with Lily at lunchtime. He greeted David with a more genuine warmth. He even exchanged jokes with Toya over the counter at the salon. But as progress took hold, a new challenge loomed on the horizon. A fundraiser for Weatherfield High's new arts wing was announced, a joint project between the community center, the school, and the Rovers Return pub. The highlight would be a collaborative exhibition, students and locals displaying their creative work, culminating in a silent auction and live performances. The event was to be hosted at the pub's back garden terrace, with Nick and David leading the efforts. For Sam, the idea of exhibiting his letter and a small painting was both thrilling and terrifying. When Toya mentioned it, his chest tightened. What if people judge me? What if they laugh at my grief? He asked. Art speaks from the heart, Toya replied firmly. Anyone who mocks your truth isn't worth your worry. But think of the lives you might touch by sharing it. You never know whose sorrow you might lighten. Sam looked at her, torn between dread and determination. In his mind, he pictured Lily's supportive smile, David's tentative nod, Nick and Shona's hopeful eyes. He pictured Natasha's gentle face, encouraging him to be brave. By the week of the fundraiser, the street was alive with preparation. Bunting fluttered above shop fronts. Flyers advertised a night of music, art, and community spirit. Samuel and Lily worked side by side painting signs that read, Bridges of Hope, a nod to Lily's recent series and a theme that resonated with Sam's journey. On the evening of the event, under strings of fairy lights, the Rover's garden overflowed with artworks, portraits, poems, ceramics, and sculptures. At the entrance, a framed display showed Sam's letter to his mother, written in neat cursive and accompanied by a small watercolor of the canal at dusk. Next to it, Lily's bridge paintings glowed under spotlights. Guests mingled, admiring each piece. Teacher Mrs. Graham paused thoughtfully before Sam's letter, mistaking the author's age, until she saw the boy standing beside it. "This is incredibly moving," she said. "You've captured love and loss in such a tender way." Sam swallowed, words catching in his throat. "Thank you," he managed. Lily gave him an encouraging smile from across the terrace. Spotting Nick nearby, he waved. Nick's face shone with pride. As the crowd spilled toward the pub's deck, local musicians took the stage. Toya introduced each act, weaving stories about the performers and their connection to Weatherfield. The night felt like a tapestry of healing, each voice and brushstroke a thread binding the community tighter. Toward the end, as auctioneer David raised his paddle for the final lot, Lily's framed bridge collection, Sam felt a swell of emotion. He approached David quietly. "Thanks for giving me a chance," he whispered. David nodded, eyes misty. "You've done all the work yourself, lad. I just watched." The auction closed at a generous bid that brought applause. The money raised would fund art scholarships for grieving young people, a cause dear to Sam's heart. When the crowd began to disperse, Sam and Lily lingered under the fairy lights, the summer air buzzing with the promise of more nights like this. Lily turned to him, sincerity alight in her gaze. "You've come so far, Sam. I'm proud of you." Sam looked at her, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the string lights above them. "Couldn't have done it without you. And thank you for seeing me, not just my grief." As he spoke, he realized how far he'd journeyed. From the boy who had lashed out in pain to the young man who could bear his sorrow, he had begun to build a new bridge, to himself, to others, and to a future where loss was a part of life, not its end. Inside the pub, Nick hugged Shona, both beaming. Toya joined them, and David toasted with a fresh pint. They raised their glasses together, a silent promise to remain united in support of Sam and of one another. And on Coronation Street, the night still held whispers of old stories, but now they also carried laughter, shared tears, and the steady rhythm of hearts learning to heal, one compassionate step at a time.